Hi, this is Sean Murphy of SK Murphy. I'll be the MC for today's briefing by Étienne Garbugli on From Desk to Founder, How to Transition into B2B Entrepreneurship in 2025. This talk will teach professionals and consultants how to become B2B founders. You'll learn to uncover business opportunities in your workplace or your clients, refine your ideas, and plan your transition into entrepreneurship in 2025. We're fortunate today to have a briefing by Étienne Garbugli. Étienne is the lead instructor and CEO of Lean B2B. He's also a product market fit coach at Sliced. He's a three-time startup founder at Highlights, Flagback, and Hirevorce, a five-time entrepreneur, and a customer research expert. Étienne has leveraged his experience as an entrepreneur to write three very good books: Lean B2B, Solving for Product, and Find Your Market. I recommend all of them. The Lean B2B methodology has helped thousands of entrepreneurs and innovators around the world build successful businesses. Étienne.
Yeah, that was long. So this talk or this concept for the talk actually came up from a few years back. I was approached by a team of entrepreneurs who were working in oil, or had been working in oil for 20 years. And they approached me and telling me that they were looking for an opportunity in software that had nothing to do with oil. They were exploring the market, and they were essentially learning software, learning everything that had to do with it. Where in this situation, they had this amazing knowledge base of experience, and these experiences that they had from the oil industry that is hard to get to, it is hard to acquire, that they were planning not to use because they were planning to build software in a completely different field. The idea behind this talk is more that we're all sitting on opportunities, we're all sitting on knowledge that oftentimes we're not fully maximizing the value of, or fully maximizing the potential of it creating advantages in a business. So as mentioned, I'll skip you this part because Sean spoke for 5 minutes about it. So why would you want to be an entrepreneur in 2025? There's a lot of reasons. It's actually a very chaotic couple of years. I think we can agree on that. And uncertainty is often very positive for entrepreneurship. It's a good time to rethink about process, rethink about how we prioritize opportunities. It's a way to also, as an individual, spread your risk. For example, there's a lot of people that were affected by layoffs. Having a second sideline or having another opportunity can be a very good idea. More upside potential. It's a good way to leverage the foundation technologies that are available today. Like, we can get so much stuff to build startups that are amazing with little investment and little development. There's still a lot of sectors that are digitizing. I think we've been saying this for like 15 years, but it's still true. There's more and more needs in organization. It's actually becoming more micro. What are the opportunities inside companies? And there's more and more verticalization of software. So there was an interesting report that came out earlier this year saying that vertical software was doing very well, and horizontal software was doing not so well. So there's a trend towards focusing on more niche, either by industry or by sectors, or by things that are more specific in terms of their use case or their utility. So why would you do that as an employee or as a consultant? So one thing that does kill startups and is not often acknowledged is just running out of money. Sometimes it's positioned as different things. It can mean different things for different people, or just the opportunity cost becomes too great. As an employee or as a consultant, you have direct access and proximity with stakeholders, pain points, the reality of an organization. You can passively collect data. You can get your first customer if you navigate it properly. You can learn about the operations. You can build a professional network. You can use your brand as a person working for that company to actually access other organizations, So it's in some ways it's a little bit of a cheat sheet, or like a cheat code to be able to start have a little bit of a smoother entry into entrepreneurship. It's also proven that keeping a job longer is actually a good way to increase your odds of success, because you have less stress about the reality, and your thinking is more balanced and nuanced. It can turn into Gone, which started as a company from a company called Syssense and is now $7.5 billion. Can be like a retool that now started from consulting and is now 3 billion in market valuation. Same thing with Datadog, which is 47 billion valuation. And there's a lot of other scenarios. It's actually one of the most common ways or common sources of ideas for businesses. It's sometimes called user entrepreneurship. I'm actually surprised Sean didn't mention this. And in some research that may be a little bit outdated now, it was more or less 50% of all startups in B2B were from user entrepreneurs. So people that work for a company or work with companies and picked up their opportunity by working for these organizations. So there's a lot of ground there to be able to pick up a good opportunity, identify a good sector, and do this on your own schedule, where you can build something that's really meaningful. So our roadmap today, learning to see. We're gonna look at dissecting winners, mapping your unfair advantages, extending your search, and shaping a business opportunity. So we're essentially starting from the moment where you're working for an organization or you're working with different organizations as a consultant, what that enables you to do. And we're going to go all the way to picking up one of these opportunities and going through validation process. Learning to see. Yeah, so there's a reality in organization is that a lot of people don't even see the opportunities. They might recognize problems, but they don't see those as business opportunities. So just the change of mindset, where you start to recognize that there are business opportunities in your work and in the work of your colleagues, is already a good starting point to be able to start thinking more critically and more as an entrepreneur moving forward. So in your role as within organizations or working for clients, if you start sentences by "why can't this," "how come this won't," "couldn't this," or "if only this," or whatever the variation of this, you're usually starting to think, okay, well, this is not perfect. This is not working exactly the way it should be. So sometimes these things might be very trivial, and sometimes they may not be. They may be something that is actually meaningful and could become an opportunity. So the idea there is that you need to have enough surface area in what you're covering. So it's not about adding another feature to a product that already exists. Like, wouldn't it be nice if they add this other feature? It's not about planning or having an idea of what the product could be. It's not about thinking that this could be useful. It's not about projecting potential for different solution. It's more about recognizing what are the things that are actually impacting your work. What are the things that are preventing you from delivering on the objectives that you've been set to deliver. And just that small mindset change is already a good way to start spotting the opportunity. And you're the first filter as the person working in the organization or the consultant. So you're looking for things that are engaging you emotionally. Oftentimes, if there's no emotion, there's not enough of a big problem or a big challenge. You want things that are repeated pains, so not something that just happens every 6 months on a blue moon. Ideally, things that tie into the objectives that you have or the things that you're trying to deliver, and things that impact other people. So the more people actually are affected by a problem or a challenge inside an organization, the more likely that these things will get on the roadmap of things to address. So you can also look at it from the perspective of things that you would do, but you're not doing because it's just not possible with the current setup. So it's just a way to kind of reframe and have an idea of creating that backlog of opportunities that you're coming across within the organization. That's one perspective, but then there's other people in the organization. So there's only so many things that you're seeing personally, but you're also working with other people that are facing challenges, that are expressing these challenges, maybe expressing them to you, or you may be hearing about it within the organization. And you're kind of looking at this from like more of a canary in the coal mine, more or less. People are flagging things that are not working properly inside the organizations. There's some challenges that are being surfaced between your colleagues, between your boss. And so that helps you having more tentacles that are kind of trying to see different opportunities and different pain points within the organization. You can also start looking at the processes in the organization. So if you look at it from the perspective of what your company is trying to achieve, what are the teams trying to achieve specifically, what's working well, what's not working well, have they kind of found solutions that are very specific or could be productized or could be interesting as opportunities? Are there things that objectives that are not being met, or that are not happening? Are there things that are bubbling up in terms of how teams collaborate together? Are there gaps in terms of information? Are there inefficiencies in the organization? Are there issues that are not being prioritized that are still latent, or they're still in the organization? So these are all signals for issues, and you essentially have a full sandbox in the organization where you can start seeing these gaps or these challenges. If you're a consultant, you might be able to see this across different organizations. So you might be working directly with 3, 4, 5 companies, and then you're able to see also the commonalities between these organizations. Another way to do this is to look into like the past decisions. So why were decisions made a certain way in the past, and what can you actually learn from that? You can start digging into why they selected certain solutions, why the problem has not been addressed, why this is still going on. It's all these opportunities to kind of have that very casual customer discovery at a level where you have a lot of proximity within one environment, one work environment that operates according to rules or laws of business logic. So do you recall why we chose that product? Had we looked at this specifically? Whose decision that was? How's it going so far? So this is just different data points that can help you understand a little bit the decision making and the things that are still left to solve, and the things that are not working well and that are working effectively. So in general, the first thing to do is to kind of set up your antennas so you're able to start collecting ideas, start using the workplace or the opportunities you have with different organizations as customer discovery strategies. There are a ton of opportunities everywhere in your work or with your clients. There's a lot of opportunities that we're not addressing. There's tiny things here and there. But if you connect that with the fact that things are becoming more and more verticalized, it's possible that the specific nature of the type of organization that you're in will make something compelling, or will make something that more of an opportunity in the future. So you're able to see them for yourself. You can get them from other people. You can find them by analyzing the business outcomes, or by looking at past decisions. So these are all ways to kind of get inputs into your system. And if you're working for an organization, or you have another occupation, you don't need to jump on anything. So you can keep digging this way. You can keep collecting information, and when you find something that is really compelling, you can move forward. The main thing to pick up here is you kind of need to change your mindset so you can start seeing these opportunities. So this is partially for education, partially because this can be useful. But you can also look at like what's been working inside the organization. Like what did they select as solution? Why did they select these solutions? What's the decision-making process? And if you're starting to look at a specific opportunity, this can be very, very informative because this gives you a taste or an understanding of what B2B selection of software or solution is like, and what would an actual sales process be like. So one way to look at this is what is the organization keeping? What are they adding? What are they removing? And what's motivating these things? What are the switches for? And what's been impacting these decisions? Who's making these decisions? What you'll realize in an organization is that there's always there might be a decision maker, but there's always other forces that are impacting the retention of a certain product in an organization. So there might be the direct user of the product might be super satisfied, but there might be a VP that knows very well someone else at a different company and is trying to get them to change solution. So it can be a good way to kind of flag these things and understand what's being prioritized, what's important, what's the decision-making process, what are the attributes that matter to this type of organization. And that gives you a little bit like a map of what's important for this type of organization. For example, you could revisit certain decision. So a certain solution was selected because of different drivers. Why they selected that specific solution. So this helps you understand a little bit why the organization is prioritizing certain benefits. Why are they choosing certain solution, and what are the gaps with these solutions? So this can be as casual as just speaking to the person that made the decision, and then understanding the people that are using the solutions and what are they seeing, what are they not enjoying. So there's ways, for examst, to compete against a solution by offering a better integration solution, a better solution at different levels of the organization. Especially if we're talking about the enterprise software, there's ways to kind of position on different axes with different stakeholders to offer something that's more compelling. I thought there was going to be a question. You can also look at the decision-making process, which ideally should inform your acquisition process and the way these solutions are coming to the attention of organizations. So if nothing else, this is an education process. It very much depends on where you are starting your journey. So if you're an experienced salesperson in B2B, you might know all this. But if this is your journey into entrepreneurship, that's the reason why I include this content is this might tell you what the normal acquisition process for technology is in the organization. It might tell you why someone would go through this process. What would they prioritize? What are the solutions that are being considered? So it tells you a lot of the information that will be required to be able to bring a product to market. So in an organization, you have everything you need to understand product selection and decision making. So you can understand why companies choose certain solutions, why they don't choose other solutions. You can speak to different stakeholders to understand different perspectives on the same purchases. You are in a situation where you have the CTO of a company that is available right there to tell you why this type of technology is good, that type of technology is not good. And these can give you just a competitive edge in the market where you understand, okay, well, I've had a lot of discussions about this specific advantage. I understand it fully, and I think that's very compelling. At the end of the day, your solution will be replacing something that organizations probably have a version of, or it will be augmenting existing solution. So kind of knowing where the fit is within the technology landscape in an organization is a good point to build on. And this will also be revealing gaps and opportunities. If you're in, sorry.
So a question on this, Étienne. So if I'm working in a role where I'm using a particular tool and I see challenges, are these tests that I can apply to see if there's an opportunity for a new offering or a new software tool? I'm trying to connect seeing the gap or seeing the problem with
Yeah.
this understanding of the decision-making process. And I'm just trying to, is this like a
Yeah.
test on that, or?
I look at it from the perspective. So it's twofold. So one side is if we're looking at the perspective of someone that has not started a business before. So these are good things to understand the selling process, the way technology gets adopted, and all these things. I do think it's meaningful as well to kind of understand the decision making around different types of solution, because that can help inform what your advantages and what the positioning could be in different situations. So, for example, if you're you're thinking about solving an database solution, and you're able to see why the company is prioritizing different technologies or prioritizing different decisions, you may be able to understand that it wouldn't be as compelling as you think it would be, or it would be considered through other lens, which might overtake the decision making to some extent. So it kind of helps it gives you an opportunity to kind of test different hypotheses in contexts where it's somewhat protected. You don't really have the issues of being able to test different ideas. But if you're in the process of this, like there are certain opportunities that you will notice in organizations that may not be meaningful or may not be for you to pick up. It's really key, I find, to use your competitive advantages, your specific advantages. If you're an expert in customer success, if you're thinking about solving issues with databases, it's probably not the best fit for your skill set. So a good way to look at this is to look at your functional expertise. What are the roles you can actually engage with at the same level or have meaningful conversations with? What are different skill sets, different type of roles you understand better? Because these will help you build more credibility and more visibility within the organizations, and will smooth out your process of speaking to other organizations. It's the same thing for your expertise in different fields. Sometimes that it can create some good competitive advantages. So if you understand very well the airline industry, which is quite complex, that can be a good opportunity to explore in that direction. So you might want to stick to the industries that you already know. That will make it easier for you to find something that's meaningful on the market. It doesn't mean that that's the final version of your product, but it's a good place to start. I worked as a designer for a fairly complex booking system for internal tools for airlines, and we actually were looking at starting a solution that would kind of be in that space afterwards, because you do have unique knowledge that can be very useful and can give you an edge on the market. Good question to ask, and that I think I'll always ask now is what are the other advantages that you have? And I find people are not necessarily always looking at it from that perspective. So they might have assets that they're not perceiving as competitive advantages, or things that they can actually use in their business efforts. For example, another business that they own, there might be some synergies between what they can develop or they can put in the market and what they already have as a business. Unique knowledge, so strong social media presence, site traffic, books, publications, contacts, access, patents, etc. I was coaching a business before the holiday, and at some point we had a discussion, and one of the co-founder mentioned that he had a community of like 90,000 people in a field that was very similar to the field we were working on, but I'd never mentioned it. And he's like, "Well, can't we use that as a marketing strategy?" So not all opportunities will be good fits, or they might look like a good fit, but they may be more challenging to tackle. It's a good idea to focus opportunities on things you can either have an advantage in or can build an advantage in the sector. There are different types of advantages. There are different types of advantages from your professional career to your personal life as well. So now it's good. You've had one company you were able to go deep with. So you were able to understand fully the decision-making process. You were able to spot the opportunity. You were able to maybe have conversation with different stakeholders in the organization about the needs and the issues and the pain points. It's good, but it's not a sign necessarily that there's a broad market for the opportunity. So you might have noticed something in the market in the organization, but the organization might be an outlier. They might have processes that are very strange and be forced to use technology or solutions that are a little bit more custom or more complex. So it can be a very good idea to extend your search, which is where it needs to be advised that there may be some constraints in your situation in this case. So you might not be able to directly pursue an opportunity on the market, depending on the contracts that you have, either with your clients or with the organization you're working for. So it's a good thing to kind of understand, like, what are your constraints legally. A good thing to do is to look at whether there's been precedence in the organization. So as there have been other employees that have left with companies or have started companies from within the company, and that's usually the case. It's just a matter of finding them. I would recommend speaking directly to the client or manager and explain the intent. If you're doing something that is directly competitive, chances are that wouldn't work. So, but if you're doing something that's complementary, there's ways to kind of turn that first organization maybe as a client for your solution. So if you spot a need within the organization, you're able to build some momentum in the organization. You can turn that into a first client deal. And if that's not possible, you can consider whether you want to build the opportunity more than you want to keep the job. So that's a consideration there. So it's more of the weighing your options in this case. There's very good benefits to being an employee, having the income, having the more prospect proximity, having stronger brand association and less pressure. But on the other hand, if you really want to accelerate, you will get much more time and fewer constraints by being unemployed, like that case. I do think some kind of mix in between is probably the best solution, because there's also the fact that you don't know what's going to turn out, and you're quite early in your process. So if you're an employee, if you want to get more data points for your search, you can reach out to other people with similar roles. So the same people that have the similar roles in other organization, and oftentimes they'll if you're asking for advice, they'll be quite happy to share some information. You can organize informal knowledge sharing events. I used to do this for analytics, and then you just have people and you're asking questions about their setup and things like that. So that can be very good to understand how they work, what challenges they're facing. People will be less likely to be guarded in terms of the information. You can attend events where these people will be. You can speak directly on social media if you're not in the same sector. And you can get intros from these people to other stakeholders in the organization if that's the stakeholders you need to speak to. It will be easier to do this.
So,
and as
a question on this.
Yeah.
So a little bit, you've formed the intent to do your own startup, and you're kind of wearing the current employee role as a Halloween costume. Are there
Essentially,
any kind of ethical hazards in this? Are there any challenges that you have to navigate so that 6 months from now or a year from now, when you approach them and say, I've started this thing, that they don't feel that you've misled them? Or how have you seen people kind of navigate that transition from employee to employee who's scouting an opportunity to founder who's now kind of actively doing outreach and selling, right?
Yeah. I think it's probably a good idea to keep those things distinct to some extent, so that they don't feel like you're doing like a switch on them specifically. So it might be good just to have them more as contacts and have more relationships with them, and then kind of do your go to market independently from these relationships. Although if there's a good fit and the relationship is good, you could always build on that. I think the
Okay.
same thing can happen if you're a consultant. So you can do a round with your existing customers. So there might be some commonalities across your different clients. You can reach out to past customers. You can directly reach out to potential prospect. You can include some questions as part of your discovery process with new organizations. You can look for ways to work at customer side. So there's a lot of different ways to kind of get some inputs. But at this stage, if you're doing this fairly passively and you're still focused on your main gig or main job, I think it's a good way to just collect information specifically.
So here there's less of a
Friction, yeah.
disconnect because you're already trying to sell your services, I'm assuming, if I'm a consultant, so I have some vision of a sales process and I'm doing something, and now I'm saying, okay, I've got these skills I have, and then now I've got a product that complements it. So this is a little less um challenging. So there are several folks who are consultants on the call.
Yeah.
um I guess my question for them is this, do you find this challenging, or what about this do you find making the transition from consultant to actually offering a product? Where do you feel the challenge in that?
Me specifically, what I've seen as challenges in this situation is people are kind of think they're setting it up in a way that the product will sell itself, which is rarely the case. So what I've seen that works best is kind of have these embedded solution where the product is part of the service and there's more synergies between both of them together. Because the moment that it deviates too much, there needs to be a different go-to-market, and then that means you need resources, you need all these things, and just to get to that spot where you're able to build a sales force or build something else like this, and then train it and have it test the market. There's a gap there that's kind of hard to bridge a little bit in terms of getting to that point. Um, in general, actually, this is a conclusion like across a bunch of different iterations, stuff like that. It's pretty rare that you will think that the same thing will sell to the exact same person. So you might end up like we think we sell this to the same stakeholders that we're doing consulting with. It might look like it is, but at the end of the day, it probably is not. And I'd say that from a bunch of different data points, like it seems to uh, always seems like it make more sense logically than it actually does. So like I think organizations, if you're planning, for example, you have an agency or you have a service company, and you're thinking about adding a product component to the company, unless they are embedded and the product is more of an entry point or a way to retain customers, it's generally important to have some kind of capacity to be able to properly build out its own go-to-market that will be distinct from the other go-to-market.
So Raghav, this is something you're wrestling with as you're a consultant. You're now thinking about offering a product. You're muted, sir.
Oh, are you asking me?
Yes, I'm asking you because you said you were a consultant thinking about offering a product. I'm just curious, does this, what questions do you have about kind of navigating this transition?
Yeah, so at this point, I've been consulting for a couple years, and I've actually been working with a team of mine, a lot of which are consultants as well, and we've actually built a software product to solve a problem that we encountered in what we were doing. So, user entrepreneurship, I think, is actually a really great way to describe sort of where we were when we started. So now what I'm doing is I'm networking. I'm just trying to learn other people's business problems, and I also think this is a great way to sort of calcify what I understand so far. What I've sort of noticed is that it's it's really hard to kind of define, where to start solving a problem, because usually you're going to have a lot of multi-layered problems when you're, especially with consulting. I was working with marketing and finance and operations at one point in time. So essentially, the biggest problem that I saw between them was the communication. So the question was, how do I create something that helps all of them, in a simple way? So that was something that I worked with my team a lot about. And from my experience, um, you do have to be careful how you ask people what their problems are in the workplace, like when you're working with them,
Yeah.
because people within a company can be a little bit defensive. So a lot of them, are kind of thinking like, well, I'm trying to keep my job, I'm trying to keep what I'm doing. So you don't want to give them any implication that you're potentially replacing something they're doing, because, you know, that can make them feel kind of nervous. So you want to make it seem very cooperative. That's something that I've learned. I've only been doing it for a couple years, so I'm still learning myself, but usually coming from a place of like, man, like I'm really struggling with this too. Like, what do you think about like this product that we have in the company or that product? Like, kind of starting from a point of like emotion and empathy is like a great way to get a lot of info out of somebody. So sorry, that was like a lot, but sort of how I think about it.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I don't think we should use ever the word problem or like challenge or struggle, like all these things, especially in more like casual stuff. For example, in this case, also like this the like I'm not mentioning, but like obviously there's like small talk and there's like discussion and like being more friendly with people. Like it's not just showing up cold like to the office of the CTO and like what's the problem? Like tell me what are the problems of the company, because that for sure will not work. But like if you're building a relationship with your colleagues and different things like that, that gives you different data points. It might not always work, but from everything I've seen, there's a bunch of situations where people are just sharing themselves in these situations. People like to complain.
Yeah.
And there was a question that came in is it sounds like your product is adjacent to your services that you provide in a consulting capacity as opposed to a product you use internally to make your consulting more efficient. Is your plan that your product would replace your services or would be offered to others that don't hire you directly?
I'd like to think of it as a leave behind. So what we do is we want to go in and help a company, solve a specific business problem they might have. So if, like for example, let's say that the company is having a problem with their financials, right? We want to provide them transparency in their financials. Maybe everything's very disorganized that way. We want to help them sort of build the frameworks that they need to maintain it. And then the product that we've built is a tool to help reinforce that organization that they've created. Because it's very easy to kind of do something right one or two or three times, and then an employee will come in. They don't mean to do anything bad, but they kind of start doing something a little bit different, and then that sort of compounds, and then you lose your process. So we want to help reinforce that process with the product. That's why we frame it as a leave behind. Because as the consulting, we can come in and help you create the right strategy for you. And then the tool will help you reinforce that strategy within your company.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any further questions on that specific part or that specific component? Okay. So what you're looking for specifically is the ideally some repeatability. So there's the existence of similar tasks or similar jobs within different organizations, similar pain, limitations, or problems. just so that you can have an idea that this is not a random occurrence, that there's some synergy there. Actual expression of frustration or desire to make a change. So the more they are committed to making a change in the organization, the better it is from that perspective. And ideally some kind of path to revenue. So either they have their own budget, or there's a way for them to access it. So this is summed up in a few slides, but this can take a little while. So it's a good way to kind of capture different data points and at least get some ideas whether your opportunity or the opportunity that you're looking at can have traction on the market. So you can get deep insights in your organization, but it will only be one data point. It can be a good idea to clear up your situation before you start engaging with other organizations. It's not necessary, but I think that might be a good practice. There's different strategies that you can use to learn from our other organizations. So once you've kind of decided on an opportunity, specifically a specific opportunity, it's more about figuring out the parameters of it, so you can actually start testing it. In the Lean B2B methodology, we're looking more at a combination of a customer job, differentiated value, and segment. So that's kind of the trinity that I'm looking at a little bit for testing. So for the market specifically, you're looking for a small sample, so you can start having some more leverage inside organizations. And I do like more exploration, how you communicate the differentiated value, the benefits. It's a good process to go through in sense of really have a clear understanding of what it is that you are doing and what it is that you're doing differently. It's as much a way to kind of clarify it for yourself, understand it, and be able to sell it and communicate it. But it's also a way to kind of put guardrails so you don't start expanding the scope of what you're doing. And it becomes, oh, this is like a CMS. It's a CMS that does this and that other thing. And then you wind up with a solution that is much harder to fit inside organizations. There's more and more specificity that's looked at for solutions, and especially in larger organizations where they're looking for more the expert tool that does that one thing as opposed to something that does 12 different things. So it can be a very good idea to have something precise and clear. So more have these different elements, and then start doing some pre-selling. I think that's something that Sean covered either in different calls. It's also in his book. It's in my book. So I didn't think it made sense to kind of go too deep into this. And essentially, as you move forward, different ways to find prospects depending on your opportunity.
So I really like your mind map chart there, because we got a question earlier on what are the failure modes in doing this. And I think the challenge is there's this, sometimes you start to add more and more stuff in this, and you start out, you're kind of backpacking with a small payload you're carrying, trying to solve, and then pretty soon you're driving this Winnebago, or you're dragging, just a huge bag of features behind you. So I think this is kind of the Kentucky Fried Chicken, we do one thing right.
Yeah, and it keeps it cleaner a little bit when you're testing. So like you have more clarity that when I talk about reducing the time to find customers specifically, this is the kind of outcome that I'm getting. So it's clearer a little bit than when you're talking a bunch of different things, and you're like which part resonated, which part didn't resonate, and then it kind of become mixed signals a little bit.
One test I like to suggest, which this passes, is that if somebody comes out of a movie and you ask them, did you like the movie? They're going to tell you about one scene. If you expect that your customers are going to say, and then this happened, and then, I mean, if they start to redo that's not actually going to work as a referral or as a viral kind of recommendation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's kind of like that test when people sign up and you're asking them like why are you recommending it? Like, what's the reason why you're recommending to other people? Yeah. So essentially, we're going through the sales process. If you're thinking about transitioning into entrepreneurship at this stage, it's a good idea to kind of figure out what your minimum cost of living is, what are your minimum the timeline that you're willing to commit to this, and then plan for iterations. I think another failure mode a little bit with entrepreneurship is thinking that the first few tries will necessarily get the right opportunity. It takes on average 2 years to find product market fit in B2B. So that is multiple iterations, that is multiple tests and multiple spins on your pitch. So if you don't plan for that, like you're not giving yourself enough of a runway. Working with time boxes, I think that's a very good idea in terms of trying to go a little faster, but also kind of gather the inputs that you're trying to get within a certain amount of time. If you guys have not read Ash Maurya's Running Lean, he's got a really good part about the time boxing and working with a schedule. That's very good content. Understanding your cash flow. Sean and I have a really good episode on cash flow for founders for the podcast, and just keeping that pace going. So you'll know that it's working if you're learning more and more about the opportunity. If you're getting enthusiastic prospects willing to refer you. So if the interactions are expanding, for example, if they're willing to refer you to other people, they want to have more meetings, they want to have more engagement, they're asking questions. So if it's expanding, it's a very good sign. And they will hopefully lead to sales and commitments. You'll know that it's not working if you're having difficulty sustaining the full attention of prospects. So if 15 minutes in, they're already thinking about something else and they're doing something else, it's a bad sign. You won't get serious referrals, and opportunities will end at the full meeting. You'll get deprioritized and deals won't close. It's often more nuanced than this. That this is where a lot of entrepreneurs are actually getting tripped up. It's like a VC yes or VC no or VC maybe type thing. But it's a good idea to make your own assessment. And that's kind of why I'm mentioning working with a time box. It kind of forces you to make decisions and move forward, because one of the worst thing you can do is kind of get stuck in that no man's land where you're like, yeah, it sort of works, but it's not great. So entrepreneurship is sustaining. There's at least one company for this opportunity, so you can try to find more companies like your employer, or adjust and improve. So user entrepreneurship might be, if we look back at the data, the main way that business opportunities have been identified in B2B. So it is not something to dismiss. It's a good opportunity, especially if you're already working for an organization. You don't need to leave your job to start making progress on your opportunity. It's a good sandbox to learn, find opportunities, and soft land into entrepreneurship. I think that's an important point. So you don't need to be in a situation where your cash flow is going like this and like you're starting to stress right away. The major difference is versus outside in is that you have more opportunities to seize the opportunities and do the pre-validation process. Any questions? Further questions?
So we had a very good question come in. So what are the common pitfalls or mistakes that you see consultants make when they're navigating this journey? Are there things that you see people doing wrong or common mistakes?
Yeah. Well, so I mentioned the one before about the go-to-market. So not building in some kind of time to learn about the market and the way to bring the product to market, and also thinking that it's necessarily going to be sold together. So sometimes that can be problematic. A good example of this is Profitwell that was thinking they were going to be able to do this and really didn't work. So that is one side. The other side is also dismissing the product/consulting mix. It's often more profitable to if you look at all the enterprise companies, like they all offer services, and often that's a big part of their profit. So having that synergy actually might be better, like having something that is fully fleshed out and kind of has like its own like onboarding, automatic like PLG and all that stuff, is a lot of work to get there. And it also might be discarding some deals and opportunities that actually would be very interesting for your company. So I wouldn't dismiss that. I think there's a good point that someone made before about whether you're replacing the services that you're offering or you're offering a complement. I think it might be a good idea to kind of think as complements as well, and because you can also have multiple complements, which is interesting, and then you can have like a little bit an ecosystem of tools. I also think that it requires certain different skill sets. So if you're not used to doing product and all these things, sometimes it can be good to have either someone that is a product manager or something like that in your team from that end, especially when you're talking about development, which can become quite costly. So just to make sure that your costs are somewhat within the budget that they should be, because there's people that do exploit a little bit these situations. I think those would be good starting points, I think, from that end.
I just wanted to thank Jen. Thanks for a great talk. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
And what you mentioned just now kind of, deals pretty much with what our client situation is. So they are focused completely on products. And my feeling is that it might be a mistake for them to do that. They
Yeah.
basically have created a software product which will launch soon. And to me, it cries out to have associated services with it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so what you said is very meaningful to me, but I'm looking for resources, like books or other resources I can look at that will help me build the arguments
Yeah.
for why they should do that. Would your books
There's a
be good coverage or?
yeah, but it's not focused on that. There's a specific chapter on consulting that is an extra chapter. I could actually send the link on that.
Oh,
But
yeah, I'd
there's
love to see it.
also Aisha Armstrong is also wrote a book called Productize. And
Okay.
it's a good read on the topic specifically about turning services into products, which is their expertise.
Or productize. And
Yeah,
the name of the author again?
Haisha or Haisha,
I put
Aisha
it in the
Armstrong.
I put it in
I'm
the
not sure
chat.
exactly how to spell it.
Oh, I got it. Okay, thank you. Perfect.
And I heard there's a new one coming out as well from a different
Yeah.
author as well. Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, this is complicated. Other questions for Etienne before we break? And we'll make a copy of the slides available. That one chart in particular, the focus chart, I thought was outstanding.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually
Oh, go ahead.
I had more of a more general question. I was just curious if anyone wanted to share any like prime business problems that they have. Just might be interesting to sort of brainstorm things there.
Sounds like customer discovery.
Well, I mean, the one other question I had is about customer discovery. So I've looked at the book by Steve Blank and another one called Lean Customer Discovery.
Yeah.
I assume that your books are also a good guide for that process.
I would say so. There's also the mom test is also good, a good read on the topic. I'd say those are probably the main ones.
Right. And Sean, I guess you've got some good material on
Yeah,
that as well, right?
On the website, yeah.
I have more blog posts than books. I think the Lean B2B book is quite on point. The mom test is good about this.
Right.
I think that, so one of the mindsets related to customer discovery is a sense of curiosity and kind of mapping, if we're talking about B2B, kind of mapping the system you're going to plug into and understanding the roles and the people and the value stream.
Right.
And I think most of the books give you kind of paper and pencil, as do my articles or whatever, right? I think there's a substantial opportunity to come up with tool sets and toolkits
Oh, yeah.
that complement qualitative. What essentially this is the technical term for this is qualitative research, and I think
Yeah.
Etienne put a bunch of very practical advice in this about how to do kind of qualitative research. the Teresa Torres, the challenge I have with her is, I don't think she explains the opportunity solution tree, at least in writing I've seen, and she's trapped in kind of Miro land and whiteboard land. It cries out for some real tools there to turn that into a. I'm old enough that when we first were doing like schematics for electronic system design, it was pencil and paper, right? And there was there were problems mapping from the pencil and paper design to how the particular system was implemented. And I think there's an equivalent challenge in going from product discovery, customer discovery interviews to kind of product specs. Yeah, so the Teresa, yeah, so the comment was Teresa offers some good interviewing techniques. Her idea of the trios and having multiple people, I think that's, yeah, I think that's all good. Well, I'm sorry to babble on too much here. I want to thank everyone for coming, and Etienne, I want to thank you for a fantastic
Thank you.
talk.
Appreciate it.
Oh, and he's put and we'll also put these in the notes that go out, but he's got a special chapter there for folks that are consulting. That's part of his Lean B2B book that
Yeah.
I think you'll find very helpful.
Yeah, thanks. I'll check it out for sure.
So, all right. I think unless there's other questions, I'm going to break here.
Thanks
Okay,
for
well,
hosting.
thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Great
Thank
event.
you.
Thanks.
Right.